Hello everyone and welcome to Learning with Ziki. In this video, we shall be discussing a summary and an analysis on The Son of Umbele by Bill Marshall. Kindly subscribe to this channel, like this video, and smash the bell icon to receive updates anytime I upload a new video. Let's begin. The Son of Umbele is an African tragedy written by Bill Marshall. This play is set in a small African community with very simple people whose main occupation is fishing. Typical African and traditional elements such as the belief in superstitions, belief in demons, and belief in smaller gods are very evident in this play. The central character of this play is Joshua, the son of Madame Umbele. He sets out on a mission to find the impossible, the third end of a rope, and just like all tragedies, Joshua dies in his quest without successfully achieving his goal. Madame Umbele is the mother of Joshua. She is very resented by the peasants. The mention of her name makes all men shiver. It makes people nervous. She is said to have raised an empire from a little room and made all men slaves to her. That is to say, Madame Umbele made a fortune satisfying the pleasure of many men. With the power she gained, she became very strong, unforgiving, and very revengeful. Everyone feared Madame Umbele. Act 1 of the play introduces us to the household of an old man, Sumako, a retired fisherman. Sumako has a wife and 4 children, 3 boys and a girl. The name Sumako means King of the Sea Monsters. The first act begins in the morning with Sumako mending his fishing net. He is worried about his sons, who have set out to sea to fish and are yet to return. His worry is heightened by the strong gale he perceives. A stranger walks into Sumako's compound and is mistaken by Sumako to be a beggar, a very impudent one of course. Sumako, though hospitable, was disappointed by the actions of the stranger as he perceived him to be rude, as well as the person who brought him up. Later conversation between the two revealed that the stranger is called Joshua, the son of Madame Umbele. Sumako, who initially wanted to hang Joshua with a rope in his backyard, becomes frightened when the stranger reveals his identity as Joshua, the son of Madame Umbele. Joshua was born into riches. As he puts it, "My cradle was lined with silk and velvet. My mother provided for me. I had everything I wanted." Despite all the goodness of life that Joshua had, he was a bastard. He didn't know his father, and neither did his mother know who his father was. Joshua is seen to be a young man full of guts and adventure. He is on a mission to find the third end of a rope, he reveals. Meanwhile, Sumako's wife is screaming in pain. She got paralyzed after giving birth to Duella, the only girl of Sumako's children. This scene brings to bear the compassionate nature of Joshua when he is told by Sumako to ignore the cries of his wife. Joshua responds by saying, "Had you not better find what she wants? I can't stand the cries of human agony. They shall amuse my mother, but not me." The utterances of Joshua portrays a sharp difference between his worldview and that of his mother's. Unlike Madame Umbele, who finds joy in seeing people suffer, her son Joshua is very compassionate and has so much regard for humanity. The response of Joshua surprises Sumako as he finds it difficult to believe that people like Joshua from the city have regard for humanity. Just before Sumako prepares to attend to his sick wife, he hands over the fishing net to Joshua to look out for holes that need mending. Readers are introduced to a comic relief as Joshua responds by saying, "The entire net is full of holes." After a rather tense moment between the two, Joshua's response releases a bit of tension as he displays his inexperience in the fishing job. Duella is introduced on stage, emptying water from a pan into a drum. She is Sumako's only daughter, thought by the family to be possessing demons. She is the reason, according to the family, why Sumako's wife got paralyzed. Men are thus warned from touching her, as they will only incur bad things upon themselves if they fail to pay heed. Joshua is impressed at first sight, seeing Duella with the large bosoms she took from her mother. He even tries to flatter her by saying, "A peasant name and a pleasant woman. I like both," after asking of her name. Duella quickly warns him that she possesses something he must avoid. Joshua is searching for many things, but particularly keen on finding the third end of a rope. When Sumako is asked by Duella what the third end of a rope means, he responds by saying, "The third end of a rope is about a story of an old legend in which a prince was thought to have conquered all sundry until he was asked one day by his mistress to find the third end of a rope. It was a romantic joke according to Sumako, and that this prince, together with his army, was never seen after they set out to find it." Joshua's mission is to complete the legend by setting off from where the prince left. After a short while, we are introduced to peasant women on stage. They are fishmongers who buy and sell fish. They usually praise old Sumako with nice names just to pay less money for the fish they buy. As Sumako describes them, they are all counterfeit. Sumako's boys return from the sea without a catch. The three boys, Benko, Ziki, and Atu, are introduced to Joshua. Benko, unlike the other boys, gives a hostile reception to Joshua. Benko is often described as irritable and impatient when it comes to dealing with people. After a long confrontation with Benko, Joshua decides to take a walk to the beach with Duella. Act 2 of the play is set in the afternoon, with Sumako worried about the whereabouts of Duella and Joshua. There is an encounter between Sumako and his son, Benko, after a while. Sumako warns Benko of his irritable behavior. In Sumako's words, he says, "Don't you ever stop? You always go on like this. I wonder how you do it. You will smother yourself, Benko. You will choke yourself. There is a knife in your heart, Benko, and if you don't let someone take it out, you are going to bleed yourself to death." Benko responds to his father by telling him that his irritable behavior is as a result of the accident he had. The theme of sacrifice, as evident among most peasants, is brought up by Benko. Benko bemoans his position as the eldest of his father's children and feels that being in this condition that he is in is some sort of a sacrifice. Sumako, however, reminds Benko that if there's anyone in the family who has sacrificed most, it has to be his mother. He talks about his wife losing her strength and sanity after giving birth to all of his children. Even though Sumako appreciates the efforts of his wife, having brought forth all his children, he feels 4 children are not enough for him. He would have wished to marry another woman only if he could afford. That in itself, he says, is a sacrifice. Here, the importance of children, as common in most traditional and primitive African societies, is portrayed by Sumako. The concept of sacrifice doesn't end there. Duella is another victim of sacrifice according to the peasants. Until the intervention of Joshua, Duella is forbidden to taste womanhood or touch a man, as she is thought to be possessing some spirits. It appears that almost every calamity that befalls a peasant is attributed to something or someone else. They do nothing about their predicament and accept it as some sort of sacrifice they have to make. Sumako, still in a conversation with Benko, praises his wife's strength, who is withstanding the test of time despite being paralyzed. Benko appears not to be concentrating. He wants to talk. He wants to know about the third end of the rope. The initial response of his father is, "There's no such thing, my boy. It's only a proverb." Sumako continues, "It's to discourage folks from prying into the unknown, trying to find the impossible." After Benko finds out that his father has been talking to Joshua about the third end of a rope, Sumako quickly rubbishes Joshua's claim about finding the third end by saying he is a fool and a confused young man and doesn't know what he's about. Sumako, from all indications, is worried about the life of Joshua, who has taken it upon himself to find the third end of a rope. As he puts it, he thinks his life is expendable. I hope his stay here makes him a better man. All he needs is a bit of fresh air. From Sumako's words, one can tell Joshua's days are numbered. We can recall Sumako saying that legends are better left alone, and trying to look into whether or not the stories told are true makes the gods angry, hence why he fears for the life of Joshua. Later in the conversation between the father and his son, we find out that there is a third end after all. Sumako conflicts his earlier statement about there being no such thing as the third end by saying, if Joshua is honest about his mission, then he may find the third end. This third end, however, isn't something you look for in an open space. According to Sumako, it's within oneself all the time. After a long time spent on the beach, Joshua and Duella finally arrive home that night with happy faces, but this happiness is short-lived. There is a little confrontation between Duella and her brother Benko. Benko, in trying to make sure Duella is still a flower bud, tells his sister, Duella, there's sun on your head. Surprisingly, his statements only attract unusual responses from Duella like, yes, Benko, there's plenty more on the beach, and that's where I've been. Duella seems to have found some sort of authority and control of herself after spending some time with Joshua. She is convinced she isn't cursed, and that all the stories about her are just made up. She fumes at her brother. They have not stopped accusing me since I was born. I've got this, I've got that. I'm responsible for this, I'm to be blamed for that. They have made me pay for my mother's condition. They tell everybody I've got a demon. And who started it all? Him, that mule, that scum. This reaction from Benko's sister would go on to increase the enmity between Benko and Joshua, as Benko feels Joshua has turned his sister against him. After a moment, Ziki, one of Sumako's children, is introduced on stage with his guitar. He mourns the death of his woman, who has been bitten by a snake. Ziki is convinced that the death of his woman was by the will of the gods. Duella, who though sympathizes with her brother, thinks the death of his woman is just an accident which could have happened to anyone. Ziki finds the words of his sister strange, as he feels she is being influenced by Joshua. Just when it is revealed that Duella is no more a flower bud, Ziki accuses her sister of killing his woman. Joshua and Duella manage to convince him otherwise, and that he should find a new woman at the carnival. Life must still go on regardless. This act, as seen, delves much into the love affair between Joshua and Duella. We get to see the invention of a new and highly spirited Duella, who has found happiness in Joshua, the love of her life. Ziki is positively impacted too by the interaction between him and the lovebirds. He accepts to put the past behind him and focus on the future. Act 3 of The Son of Umbele begins in the night. It focuses on the duel between Benko and Joshua. We are introduced to Atu and Joshua on stage. Atu is one of Sumako's sons. He is labeled the fool of the family, who does whatever he is told to do. They believe he is not clever enough to fib or tell a lie, and as such, runs all the errands for the family. We get to realize in his conversation with Joshua that he is not a fool after all. When asked by Sumako to go and search for Joshua and Duella the other night at the beach, Atu returned home, saying he didn't find them. They believed him, but it was all a fabrication. Atu just didn't want to spoil the fun and good time Joshua was having with his sister. Still in the conversation with Joshua, Atu wants him not to join his brothers for fishing, as Benko is very upset with Joshua. This advice shows Atu is clever. He senses danger when he sees it and wants what's best for his friend Joshua. "I'm not backing out because Big Brother Benko feels sore," is the response of Joshua to Atu. Benko's irritable behavior isn't something Joshua thinks he must be concerned about. Soon, when Benko is introduced on stage, he is told by Atu that Joshua will replace Ziki for fishing, as Ziki has a funeral and a carnival to attend. Benko doesn't consent to Joshua joining them and calls him all sort of names. This results in a heated burst-up between Joshua and Benko. Sumako intervenes after hearing so much noise produced from their arguments. He asks if both Joshua and Benko would like to end their feud with the combat of a gun and a dagger. They both agree to settle their enmity with the fight. Lots were drawn. Joshua had the chance of choosing a gun loaded with one bullet, while Benko chooses a blunt dagger with a poisonous tip. Joshua takes the lead to the beach, where the battle is to take place. Few moments later, Joshua shoots himself just before Benko gets there. Benko rushes back to announce what Joshua had done to himself. The news saddens everyone, most especially Duella, who has grown fond of him. Sumako is at least glad that his family is together. He pities Duella, who would have to live life without the love of her life. Sumako suggests she would have to find another man who wouldn't come looking for the third end of a rope. Just like all tragedies, the play ends with the untimely death of Joshua, the protagonist. Joshua may not have achieved all the targets he set for himself, but he has successfully transformed Sumako's family. His statement, "A new life for Sumako's family at whatever cost, and may the devil help me," can be said to have been fulfilled.